us together, whining and grinding, up on the floor. Smack that all on the floor. Smack that, give me some more. Smack.
15 years, yo. 15 years. Bam! I'm gonna tell you a full story about this album, backstories, how it came about, what I was thinking, you know, the basics, you know, behind the scenes stuff, and then I'll probably sign it for some special fan. Let me start by saying that there's always been a trademark that I wanted to represent in my music. It all stemmed from when I got locked up. You know, when I first started in the music business, I started as a producer. But as a producer, I was also a ghost producer. Konvicted was a way of, you could say, merging all of those sounds in one, because I grew up listening to everything and everybody, but also creating sounds for a lot of producers. My style of writing was always based on my experience, and I never really waved away from the experience. You know, like, you know, I'll go in the studio, write about it, and then that would become my way of, you know, releasing whatever tension or whatever I'm dealing with, you know, that I couldn't speak about. So music became like therapy for me. Blown Away was, actually, that's probably one of my favorite records off the Konvicted album on the street level. Styles has always been, to me, like the epitome of the streets. I always loved the way he delivered, his you know, his energy, his history, his environment. He understood what that was. And me and him having the success with Locked Up, I couldn't come into the next album without hitting Styles up, like, yo, I got another one for us. This is it right here, right? So it was one of them things where, you know, as soon as he heard it, man, he sent it back literally within 30 minutes. He felt it just as much as I did, but the energy of it was just more on, you know, again, talking about what we experienced in the streets, what we had experienced already, or what we felt was actually literally happening at that moment. But it was more so a record that I personally, sonically, wanted to create a sound that would bring the West Coast and East Coast under one umbrella, but still keep it hardcore with the, you know, what was being said and the feel of it.
But I can see you. It's cool, we jet, the mood is set. You're rubbing your back and touching your neck. Your body is moving, you're and jumping, your is bouncing, you're smiling and grinning and looking at me.
For Snoop to get on his record, love it as much as I did, I was like, bro, this is not a collaboration. This is your record, like it's my record. It's gonna go on your album, it's gonna go on my album. But at the same time, it was the biggest record of that selling album of his. And it was one of the biggest records on this album of mine. So it was obvious that that was a huge record, and the audience loved to hear Snoop on that flow and that style. So I can see why Snoop would, you know, capture that energy for the next albums for him to come. You know, for me it was like, man, this solidifies my street sound. You know, because at that time that's when my 808 clap and auto-tune was at its fullest, right? So it opened up a whole new genre for me from on an urban level. But I also realized that now that I'm submitted in the urban side, I got to start crossing over. Now this is the time for me to cross over to the pop side. So that's when I started putting out more of the bigger pop records like The Beautifuls and Right Now and things like that. I Wanna Love You was a different type of record from Smack That, but at the same time it opened the door for Smack That, because it almost seemed like Smack That was part 2 of I Wanna Love You, because I Wanna Love You was just blatantly saying, I wanna fuck you.
And watch me smack that all on the floor. Smack that, give me some more. Smack.
You know, me and M, from the moment we connected with each other, we just immediately connected, like immediately. I connected with him even more when I realized that he also produced, because I never knew that he produced. He's like, yo, I got some tracks. I had some tracks too, ready to go. I'm thinking I'm gonna go over there and just produce M's whole next album, you know what I'm saying? He was like, yo, you know, I produced too. I said, word? He said, yeah. I said, well, play me some shit, let me hear it. And then he played the one, doom, 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 doom. I was like, oh shit, doom, doom. I said, yo, what's that? But see, at the time, you're right, because the track actually sounded comical. If you strip the Smack That lyrics out of the track and just listen to it, like it sounded psycho and comedy at the same. It's an Eminem record, believe me when I tell you, right? And was like, all right, cool, well, I'm gonna go take lunch, I'll be back. And I'm like, lunch? What are you talking about? Like, lunch? Like, just so you guys know, M took the business like a real, like he treated it like a real business. He would come in at 9 o'clock till about 12, 1, go take lunch, come back around 2, 3, finish, and then about 5:30 max, he's out of there, he went home. Like he treated this like a real 9 to 5. I have never seen nothing like it before. He came back the next day and just killed it, like bodied it, like, and the record just was like, I mean, from the moment we dropped the record, it was a monster smash, like immediately. So Mama Africa was a very special record, but more than anything, it was a signature and a symbol for Konvicted in general. Because Konvicted was that moment where I feel like Africa has always been convicted of everything but the truth. I wanted to be the artist that allowed people to understand how much not only Africa meant to me, but how important Africa should be to everyone else. You know, so we never got a video shot for that record. But that was also one of the biggest records that I felt of that album, that if anything else, it should have been released as a single, not only for educational purposes, but also for the appreciation of purposes of what the continent itself does for every human being, and not only just for people, but for what it does for the globe. Right. So Gangsta Bop, the influence for that record, I'm not even gonna lie to you, it came from that 50 cents in the club. You know, go shawty, it's your birthday. Hey, I was like, ooh, that thing right there is stupid. I said, I need something like that on my next album. It got me such in a Gangsta Bop like mood. You know, it's like, and then I was like, ooh, they gonna be at the Crip Walk to this. So it was like, honest, I ain't gonna lie to you, 50, thank you. Ultimately, after hearing that record, it definitely gave me that motivation. But more than anything, from a lyrical standpoint, it went back again, hitting the streets real hard, making a fun street record, but still, it's just hard enough to keep that realness, that grittiness in it. It was always a thing for me like that. It just had to hit right. It had to hit hard. These are things like you can see the album progressing into this confident, you know, more, you know, my mind is more open because I'm traveling the world, I'm seeing different things. So you can see the album going from more of a darker place to a more brighter place. You know, you can feel these songs more positive in the club. You can see certain things, and then you fast forward into Freedom. I'm dancing, I'm happy, I'm in festivals, I'm in EDM. I'm living the rich man's life. These are things I could never experience during Trouble, but as you can see, the experiences kind of follow me through my life, and then these songs became something more about what surrounded me at that particular moment in time. So that kind of, I think that was the easiest way to keep my content, you know, legitimate, keep it honest, and keep it consistent. Just thinking about all the things that I was physically going through at that time and writing songs about them. To be a convict or a convicted felon and have a 10-year plan of where you want it to be in the next 10 years, ultimately I was blessed to be able to achieve it in 5, but to see the convict bars coming from Locked Up, the first official record, to Hold My Hand with Michael Jackson was like, you know what I'm saying?